Welcome to Conversations with Candidates. I'm Thor Jourgensen, news editor of the Daily Item and itemlive.com. Our guest today is Mark Archer, unenrolled candidate for Essex County Sheriff. Mark, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Thor.
You're quite welcome. Could you tell us a little about your background and why you're running, please?
Sure. I'm running for sheriff because of a few reasons. One, I love being a public servant. I've been a public servant for many years as a retired state trooper, and I really enjoy that type of work. I'm looking forward to working with the community. So I'm looking forward to getting into the Sheriff's Department, making some changes that I think are necessary to get things running the way they should be for the community.
Tell us a little about your background, Mark. How long you worked with the state police, and a little about your background education-wise.
I grew up here in the city of Lynn. I come from a very large family. My parents worked at the GE to support our family. I went to the Lynn public school systems, Ingalls Elementary, Easton Junior High, and Lynn Vogue Tech. I've been married for 35 years. My wife Mary and I, at an early point in our marriage, we were foster parents. I've had probably about 12 foster kids throughout that time. I graduated, like I said, from Lynn Vogue Tech in 1980 from the plumbing course. And I went straight to work for the Boston Plumbers Union. When I left the Boston Plumbers Union, I had a journeyman and a master's plumber's license. I knew at that point I really wanted to get into law enforcement. So in 1985, after I left the Plumbers Union, I had my own plumbing business here in the city of Lynn for a while. And I was taking examinations to become a police officer, and I was accepted in 1988 to the Mass State Police. After I graduated from the Mass State Police Academy, I was assigned to what they call A Troop. This area encompasses A Troop as well as beyond this area. So I worked for many years patrolling the streets of Essex County as a road trooper for the state police. I then transferred into the drug unit of the Mass State Police Central Narcotics Section. During the time I was in the Central Narcotics Section, I worked undercover. I've done surveillance work, executed search warrants. I also went to undergrad while I was in the drug unit. Graduated from Springfield College with a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. I started one of the first and only hotel drug interdiction units of the Mass State Police, which targeted high-level drug offenders. It was a wildly successful program, seized a lot of narcotics and arrested thousands of criminals and dangerous felons off the streets. I transferred from the drug unit into the Central Narcotics Section of the Mass State Police. To the certification unit of the state police. That unit is responsible for licensing private detectives and doing background checks on new recruits coming onto the state police, as well as other various tasks. During the time I was with the certification unit, I went to law school at night, and I graduated from the New England School of Law in Boston in 2004, and I started practicing law. And in 2008, I retired from the state police to practice law full-time. Still all the while, wanting to be in law enforcement. I thought a transition from the state police to a law degree would still be sort of the same feeling as being within the law background, but it really wasn't. And when Sheriff Cousins decided not to run for Sheriff of Essex County, I figured that someone with my personal experience and my professional experience would be the right fit for Essex County to be a great sheriff. So that's why I'm here running for sheriff.
What is the most important issue in your view, Mark, in this race for sheriff?
Number one has to be the opioid crisis. We're losing way too many people to the terrible epidemic of the opioid crisis. So I'm going to get into the Sheriff's Department. I'm going to attack that head on, and that includes, strengthening the programs that are there now, taking a hard look at what we have going on, see if we can make them better, add some new programs. I'd like to start a mentoring program, especially to the new inmates that are coming into the Sheriff's Department, mentor them, mentor their families, to help them see a different way so that when they leave the Sheriff's Department, especially the inmates and detainees, they're only going to be there for a short time, most of them. And if we can catch them on the way in, hopefully we can get them back into the communities in a better place than they were when they came in. That will drastically reduce the recidivism rate. Secondarily is transparency. The Sheriff's Department is not transparent enough. I believe it's our tax dollars, and everyone should know what the Sheriff's Department does, where that money goes. The Sheriff's Department spends between $50–60 million a year. And on my campaign thus far, I haven't met anyone who actually knows where the money's going. And I intend to have an open book and an open door policy. And I really want to have community involvement so that we can know exactly what's going on. So transparency is a must for me.
What role should the Sheriff's Office department play in working with other law enforcement in Essex County? What's the ideal sort of partnership that should exist?
It's a collaborative partnership. The law enforcement community, police departments, the state police, they're a little different because they actually go out and arrest people and they bring them to the Sheriff's Department to be held. The Sheriff's Department has a role to play in that, however, and I think they need to communicate on a daily, if not weekly basis about what's going on in the community, just as I think the community ought to be engaging with the Sheriff's Department. And as Sheriff, I'm going to take all the skills that I have, whether it be from when I was a master plumber or a state trooper or now a lawyer, and the skills I have in civil litigation, arbitration, mediation, skills that I have to bring people together. And I'm going to use all those skills to have the community engaged, to have all law enforcement departments engaged with the Sheriff's Department. So to answer your question, the connection to law enforcement is simply just communication. Communication is number one.
This has been Conversations with Candidates. Our guest is Mark Archer, unenrolled candidate. Mark will not be on the Thursday, September 8th primary ballot. Mark will be on the November 8th final ballot for sheriff. Please read Item Live and the Daily Item for all campaign coverage. And thank you again, Mark.
Thank you for having me, Thor.
Yes, sir.